Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding. Mr. President.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for opening remarks by Councilmember Harding, and I'll be doing a proclamation as well. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please have a seat. Actually, I'll forego comments today because we're a little behind schedule, and Mr. Begley has a proclamation that we'd like to hear.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Whereas Irish American Heritage Month will be celebrated by presidential proclamation since 1991, recognizing the more than 31 million Americans who claim Irish ancestry, with month-long celebrations centered around St. Patrick's Day on March 17th, honoring the contributions made by the Irish to the civic, cultural, and economic fabric of our nation. And whereas Irish have immigrated in large to the Omaha region since its establishment in 1854 and have shown resilience and determination in overcoming adversity to achieve prosperity while maintaining a vibrant culture heritage that enriches the diversity of our Omaha communities. And whereas the City of Omaha engaged the City of Nace in 2001 for a potential twinning between the two cities, with the official signing ceremony taking place in March of 2002, with a delegation from Nace arriving in Omaha to participate in the annual St. Patrick's Day Parade and festivities. And whereas the 2026 festivities commence on February 27th with the Irish Music Festival featuring Derek Warfield and the Young Wolf Tones. They were fabulous. I went to it. And continued on March 1st with the Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernians Hooley, fostering community spirit through traditional food and entertainment. And whereas the Omaha Irish Cultural Center will host the 3rd annual Irish Film Festival on March 6th through March 8th at the Benson Theater, the 11th annual St. Patrick's Day Awards brunch recognizing local individuals for outstanding public service and lifelong achievements. And on March 14th, the Ancient Order of Hibernians Father Flanagan Division will host Omaha's 154th annual St. Patrick's Day Parade, the oldest and largest ethnic parade in the city of Omaha. That'll be held on Saturday, March 14th. Now, therefore, be it resolved that March 2026 will be observed as Irish American Heritage Month in Omaha, Nebraska, and all citizens of Omaha are encouraged to observe this month by celebrating the vibrant culture and enduring legacy of the Irish people. In witness whereof, we have set our hands and caused the official seal of the City of Omaha to be affixed on this 3rd day of March 2026. Enjoy the month, everybody. Thanks.
An affidavit of publication is on file, and a current copy of the Open Meeting Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of legislative chambers.
Good afternoon. Welcome to this meeting of the Omaha City Council. As a courtesy to those in attendance and to facilitate the conduct of our business, we ask that you please silence or turn off all electronic devices. A reminder, you will have 3 minutes to speak on an agenda item. We ask that you please stay on topic. For those not providing in-person testimony and would like your comments entered into the public record, council member, you can email the city clerk's office at cityclerk@cityofomaha.org. Council members, we receive these and we read them. Finally, council members may ask members of the audience back up for clarifying questions, but not for extra time to speak. I would also like to remind council members to speak clearly into their microphones, and so the audience members in attendance can hear them. And the same thing is asked of anybody from the audience coming up. Make sure those microphones are right in front of you so everybody can hear you speaking. Thank you.
Item 6, to consider a Class C liquor license for Bucky Dexter's located at 4213 South 84th Street.
Public hearing is now open on item number 6. Applicant, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Get your name and address for the record, please.
Nathan Barges, 4713 B Street.
Thank you, and we might have some questions for you. Thank you.
Okay.
Are there any proponents here on item number 6? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug.
Yes.
Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, to consider a Class C liquor license for Base Camp located at 3220 Farnham Street, Suite 2105.
Public hearing is now open on item number 7. Applicant here today, good afternoon.
Mike Mahalik, 2429 South 186 Circle.
Might have some questions for you. Thanks for being here today. Are there any proponents on item number 7? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Couple quick questions for you. Welcome to Midtown, and what are your hours going to be of your business there?
9 to 9.
9 to 9, Monday through Sunday?
Yes.
And when are you opening up?
2.5, 3 weeks.
All right. Wish you the best of luck. This is
you.
in my district. I'll certainly be supporting this today.
Appreciate that.
You bet. Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 8, to consider a Class I liquor license for Red Door Wood-Fired Grill located at 6680 Center Street.
Public hearing is now open on item number 8. Applicant, good afternoon.
Hi, Colin Kozel, attorney for the applicant, 8216 City Center Drive, apartment 505, La Vista, Nebraska, 68128.
Thank you.
Welcome, any questions?
Might have a few questions for you. Thanks. Are there any proponents here today on item number 8?
I will say that one of our representatives, Josh Peterson, is with us over Zoom.
Got it. Okay. Yep, I see him. Is he on there? Okay. Thank you. You want to give us your name and address, Mr. Peterson, if you can hear us?
Yeah, absolutely. Josh Pedersen, address is 5514 West 101st Street, Overland Park, Kansas, 66207.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here today for item number 8? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. I got a couple questions for you, Mr. Peterson, if you can still hear me.
Yes, sir.
What are your hours going to be? And just tell us about your restaurant there going into Exarban.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got 3 locations in the Missouri area and 3 on the Kansas side, so 6 altogether, all in kind of the Kansas City area. Hours are going to be 11 a.m. till about 10 or 11 on Monday through Thursday, 11 to 11 on Friday, and then we open for brunch on Saturday, Sunday. So we'll be open from 10 a.m. until 11 on Saturday, and 10 a.m. until 10 p.m. on Sunday.
Okay, and what kind of food are you going to have there?
We do kind of all over the map, but everything typically touches our wood fire grill. So we've got an open wood fire grill, so anything from enchiladas to steak to burgers to a lot of seafood, a lot of nice salads. So really all different cuisines, but just a nice smoky flavor.
We welcome you to Omaha and New Exarban. It's in the heart of my district, and I'll look forward to getting up there. When do you plan on opening? I walk by there and I see you're hustling pretty good inside there. What's your target date to open?
We're shooting for sometime. We're probably shooting for Cinco de Mayo, possibly middle of May.
Okay, I wish you the best of luck. That's a great spot, and I'll certainly be supporting this here today.
All right, appreciate it.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 9, to consider a change of location liquor license application for Maravillas Olga to be located at 2910 K Street, Suite G.
Public hearing is now open on item number 9. Applicant, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Get your name and address for the record, please.
Olga Villarreal, 2910 K Street, Suite G, Omaha, Nebraska, 68107.
Thank you. Are there any proponents here today for item number 9? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. Items 10 and 11 can be considered together for MPS 210 and Q Campus Replat 1. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 10 is a resolution to approve the final plat. Item 11, a resolution to approve the subdivision agreement.
Public hearing is now open for items 10 and 11. Applicant, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone. Caleb Ben Wilden with Lamper Nearson, 147110 West Dodge Road, here on behalf of the applicant and available to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any proponents here on items 10 and 11? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Item 12, a resolution to rezone property located at 4734 and 4802 South 90th Street from R1 District and R3 District to R3 District. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing is now open on item number 12. Applicant, good afternoon.
Mark Harold, 4802 South 90th Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68127.
Thanks for being here today. Are there any proponents here on item number 12? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding. Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you very
7-0.
much.
Thank you.
Items 13 and 14 can be considered together for property located at 6404 South 60th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 13, an ordinance to rezone this property from DR District to GI District. Item 14, an ordinance to amend the future land use element of the city's master plan from civic and open space to industrial.
The public hearing is now open for items 13 and 14. Is the applicant here today? Are there any proponents for items 13 and 14? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Can a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. Items 15 and 16 can be considered together for property located at 6220 North 30th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 15, an ordinance to rezone this property from R4 District to R6 District. Item 16, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the MCC overlay district to incorporate this property into that district.
Public hearing is now open for items 15 and 16. Applicant, good afternoon.
Hi, my name's Brendan Findle with Lamper Nearson, 14710 West Dodge Road. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, and with me is Ryan Zimmermas as the developer. Ready to
Thank
answer
you.
Any questions?
Thanks. Are there any proponents here on items 15 and 16? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. Items 17 and 18 can be considered together for property located at 2808 Ames Avenue. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 17, an ordinance to rezone this property from R5 District and GC District to CC District. Item 18, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the ACI2 overlay district to incorporate this property into that district.
Public hearing is now open on items 17 and 18. Before I call for proponents, is the applicant here today? Are there any proponents for items 17 and 18? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is up. Public hearing is closed. Councilmember Goodwin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to, put on the public record that this property is within the Inland Port Authority boundaries, and so I'll be reaching out to the owner just to ensure that they understand the overall plans and are in communication and coordination with the Inland Port Authority. Thank you. Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Roll call. No further lights.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. Items 19 and 20 can be considered together for property located at 330 North 117th Street. Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. Item 19, an ordinance to rezone this property from LO District to CC District. Item 20, an ordinance to amend the boundaries of the ACI 3 overlay district to incorporate this property into that district.
Public hearing is now open for items 19 and 20. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mark Sanford, architect, representative for the applicant, 12509 Reed Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68142.
Thank you. Are there any proponents here today, items 19 and 20? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding. Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause any item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from the consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by the City Council Rules of Order.
The public hearing on agenda items 21 and 22 were held on February 24th, 2026. Any discussion? Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding. Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0.
The public hearings on agenda items 23 through 49 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by your name, address, who you represent, and if you're a proponent or opponent. The public hearing is now open. Are there any proponents on items 23 through 49? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding. Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. Item 50, an ordinance authorizing and approving a lease purchase agreement to provide funds for a parking garage at the Crossroads redevelopment site in an amount not to exceed $65 million. Lease revenue refunding bonds, Series 2026C. A is amendment of the whole requested by the Finance Department.
Got a motion and a second. No lights. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding. Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. One public hearing can be held for items 51 and 52 for the Papillion Creek Water Resource Recovery Facility Secondary Expansion Project. A is communication in opposition. Item 51, an ordinance to approve Amendment Number 1 to the Construction Manager at Risk Agreement with McCarthy Building Companies, Inc. Item 52, an ordinance to approve an agreement with Aqua Aerobic Systems, Inc.
Public hearing is now open on items 51 and 52. Are there proponents here today? Mr. Tyler, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jim Tyler, City of Omaha Public Works. On behalf of the city, I'm going to try to say a few words about the project. We have someone from McCarthy to say a few words about their company, and so let me start with getting this. I assume this. Thank you very much. So before I talk about the project, we always like to try to re-educate the public on what we do here with the City of Omaha with our regional wastewater collection and treatment system. So we have two facilities, our Papillion Creek plant, at which this project is going in, and our Missouri River wastewater treatment plant. Those two facilities treat about 100 million gallons of wastewater every day. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is that we are a regional wastewater provider. We provide wastewater service for most of Douglas and Sarpy County, pretty much everything east of the Elkhorn River. And so, you know, Sarpy County is a customer, Douglas County is a customer, La Vista is a customer, Papillion's a customer. Those municipalities, those government entities are customers that we serve by our regional wastewater and treatment plant. And so they all help pay for the sewer rates and capital improvements and the operation of the facilities that we own and operate. About 800,000 service population within the metro area, and over 2,000 miles of sewers. One more before I get into the project, but just wanted to, these projects are paid for our sewer revenue fund. Okay, and so, for the city of Omaha, that comes in on your MUD bill, and a typical resident pays about $60 a month for the wastewater service that we provide. We have a current rate ordinance on the book that you approved a few years back, and that sets rates through 2028, and that included revenue increases of about 2.5% per year. But of those revenue increases, the residents' portion increases only about 1.4% a year. So we periodically do what's called a cost of service study to determine the appropriate rates to pass on to the different customers, like those outside cities that we serve, like large industries that we serve. And that forecast revenue for 2026 is right about $231 million. We're big, we're a big wastewater utility. There's this pie chart here, a little hard to read, but the large proportion is residential, large commercial. The 10% is that wholesale, satellite, other government entities. These are where our revenues come from, according to that pie chart. So that's just a little education on, the wastewater utility that we provide to the metro area. And I want to try to make sure that that's important and just something we like to re-educate the public on every once in a while. So as far as the project, and I want to talk a little bit about, why is this project important? And so the project was authorized, and let me make sure I get my, what is the project? Okay, the project is, according to our CIP, has a budget of $565 million overall. Okay, and this includes the construction of a new OPPD substation, the relocation of the city's Oma Grove compost facility, and direct equipment purchases, including item 52 that you're considering today, which is $88 million. Those things, along with this contract that we would ask you to approve with McCarthy for their guaranteed maximum price. This is a little timeline. The project itself, the project has a timeline of about 6 years to complete. So while we say that's a huge dollar amount, that $565 million, that's broken down by year, it's closer to about $80, $90 million a year. And the way we support that cash flow during that time is we work closely with our finance department. They look at the cash we have in the bank, the forecast capital projects we have to get completed, and our operations and maintenance personnel, all those costs. We look at that with our cash flow, with our finance department. Every once in a while, they decide we're going to need to sell bonds to support the capital programs. And that's work done closely with our finance department that makes those decisions on the management of that sewer revenue fund. I'm going to go back to why we're doing the project a little bit, but again, just let me talk a little bit again about the project. I got a little bit off course of what I was going to talk in order, but okay. This is a lot of money. When we put projects in front of you like this, we understand that's a lot of money for you to consider, and we understand there's a lot of work that goes into understanding what the right way for you to vote on this is. Just to put it into context, this is a massive project. That's Memorial Stadium. That's the footprint of Memorial Stadium. That's the size of the tanks that we're building at our Papio wastewater treatment plant. That's about 6,000 trucks of concrete that are going to go into that project. We like to give you a little context of how big is this. This is massive. This is a cutout of, these are these activated granular sludge tanks. They have to be supported. They are very, very heavy. The way we support these is we drive pile down to bedrock. Okay, we have 35 miles of pilings to construct for this project. You know, I'm just trying to give you a sense of why are we spending money on this project? It's big. It's a really big project. It's important for the city of Omaha. A lot of pipe on the project. So piping inside the tanks, piping across, like we call the yard piping, a lot of pipe to get the water, the wastewater where it needs to go. It says enough pipe to go from here to Waverly. I would just like to say almost Lincoln. Okay, so it's a lot of pipe. So there's a lot of work going into this project. It's a massive project, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why we have this contract in front of you with McCarthy. I guess I have one more of these why slides, and it's just, electrical work, enough energy for 7,500 households. That's how much energy we need to run this treatment plant. OPPD is building a substation just for us to run this treatment plant. So I wanted to throw some of those things on to you to help understand, here's the context, here's the magnitude, here's the size of what we're doing. I'm going to go back to a little bit of why we're doing it. And so the current permit with the state of Nebraska is requiring us to meet stricter requirements. Okay, there's something called ammonia requirements, and there's something called nutrient requirements. The ammonia requirements are current within the regulations of the state of Nebraska that our plant does not meet. The nutrient requirements are something we believe we will have to meet here in the future. So we knew that our existing technology would not meet those current and future requirements. The infrastructure that we have in place right now is 50 years old. It's been running and churning and going since they built that plant and turned it on in 1977. It's aging. We've been, our plant managers, our plant staff, they do a great job of keeping the things going, but we know it's time to replace that infrastructure. We can't have any more sunk cost into that infrastructure that's just kind of limping along. That's the best way to explain it. We had a major failure here about 3 years ago where we were down to, the current technology is called trickling filters. There are 2 at the plant. One was down, and we got dumped on by an industry that sent us something we could not handle. 8 months, we were basically limping along, out of service, barely meeting compliance with the state, and the stench of the plant was disgusting. And that's what we deal with, not meeting our permit limits, not having a treatment plant that can serve the city if we don't do this project. We need to get this project done. And again, community growth, absolutely community growth, this is needed. This design of what's going in at this plant, we're looking out till 2050. We need to meet the needs of future growth in Omaha and the surrounding community. So I think I'm kind of done with what I wanted to talk to about slides. But it's significant that we're here in front of you to talk about this guaranteed maximum price with McCarthy, which we followed strict state law and a legal process to award the project to McCarthy, develop the project with McCarthy, HDR, and a third party that looked at all the work we were doing. We did choose, and I'll go back here, I think I have one more slide. We chose the construction manager risk methodology for a number of reasons. Okay, and that's a risk decision that the city made to best manage this project. The complexity of the project was needed to provide, we did the CMAR because of the complexity, the schedules, how difficult the project was, and we understood that at this price point, we were not going to get competition. That was very important because the last large project that we did at our wastewater treatment plant, which was a very, very good project, and it's getting finished right now, and we're going to, that project is going to go live here this year, and that's Hawkins. But we did that project with a single bidder. We put the project out for bid. We got a single bidder. That single bidder was Hawkins. We put the project back out for bid. We got a single builder. That single bidder was Hawkins. We knew, we understood by talking to the contractors that work in this cost price point, in this type of work, that we would not get competition unless if we used this methodology. And so that was another reason why we chose the CMAR. Okay. And from that point on, we followed the legal process. We chose McCarthy through a legal process. We developed all the work that was going on, working in collaboration with McCarthy, with HDR, and with a third party, Jacobs, that did a third party estimate and that we're bringing on for construction observation. So that's really what I wanted to say. Be here. I'll be happy to answer questions. McCarthy has someone that just wants to say a few words about their company, and I'll remain close to the podium.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Jaron Murphy. I'm the business unit leader for McCarthy's water and wastewater business. Address is 4201 South 130th Street in Omaha, Nebraska, 68137. So a little bit about McCarthy in Omaha. We started business here in 2001. We've been here for about 25 years. We started an office in 2017. I'm standing here in front of you to represent over 150 partners in Omaha and Nebraska that have built over $2 billion worth of projects across the state and in Omaha. Some of those key projects you may recognize: Omaha VA Ambulatory Care Center, the UNMC Core Building, UNO's Durham Science Center, and other critical infrastructure projects across the state and in Omaha, Nebraska. For the past 25 years, we've worked really hard to be a community builder, not just a contractor, to make sure that we are of Omaha and not just working in Omaha. Our water experience in the Midwest: we have completed 5 similar projects in neighboring states that are very similar in technology, very similar in size. And we have brought price certainty, timely construction schedules, and making sure that everyone has a great experience on these projects, as they are often very long and often very complex and phased. Our commitment to Omaha: we have partnered closely with Omaha over the last couple of years and the Department of Human Rights and Relations to ensure equitable opportunities for SEBs on this project and across other projects. Our local team gives back monetary and kind donations to local charities and organizations, including the American Heart Association, Open Door Mission, Food Bank for the Heartland, and CASA for Douglas County. We have active workforce development programs, including ACE mentorship and STEM programs to support the future build-out of construction and also the trades here in Omaha, Nebraska. I want to thank the opportunity to work collaboratively with the city and everything that we're going to do on this project, and we're excited to work together for a successful project. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here on items 51 and 52?
My name is Dan Ruskowski, 5307 P Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68117. So once again, my name is Dan Ruskowski, and I serve as a business agent for the Mid-America Carpenters Regional Council. I am here to express my support for the selection of McCarthy Building Companies as the construction manager / general contractor for the second phase expansion of the Papillion Creek Water Resource Recovery Facility. We strongly support the use of Construction Manager at Risk, or CMAR, delivery method for a project of this scale. Under CMAR, the construction manager is required to present the full design and scope of work alongside a guaranteed maximum price, or GMP, which encompasses consulting fees, design costs, and total construction costs for large-scale projects. This approach also allows the general contractor to self-perform many scopes of work, reducing dependence on subcontractors who may pay skilled tradespeople off the books in cash below area wage standards and without proper deductions for payroll taxes, unemployment insurance, or workers' comp that every tradesperson deserves. This bidding process gives the city clear, upfront cost certainty. The GMP shields Omaha taxpayers from cost overturns caused by excessive change orders, missed scopes of work, incorrect materials, or other mistakes, because any such additional costs fall on the contractor, not the public. CMAR is simply the most effective way for the city to lock in project costs and prevent expenses from spiraling over time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here? Items 51 and 52.
Good afternoon, Omaha City Council, Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizens Foundation, 4928 North 52nd. Mr. Hutter, I think you was right about this World War III. But this is, I'm going to support Brian because Brian, and I told Mr. Jim Vocal, who was on the city council at one time, 1981, I flew into Nigeria and I was putting a deal together for Enron and MUD. And I believe it was Enron or MUD, one of them had a ship to buy propane to come out of Nigeria. So I flew in and did that. Then on the Senator Dave Karn program, I flew into Egypt to take aerial photos of bridges. So,
Donnie, we need to stay on topic here, okay?
Yeah, but I'm trying to tell these young guys here, you may want to look at this part here. My teacher told us about this part about here, back in the 1800s. You might want to live upstream versus downstream.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here today? Seeing none, are there any opponents?
Good afternoon, President Bagley and members of the City Council. My name is Jim Vocal, and I'm the CEO of the Platt Institute, located at 6910 Pacific Street here in Omaha. Here today is both an Omaha taxpayer, constituent of Councilman Festerson's, and the leader of a public policy organization advocating for taxpayers across the state to speak in opposition to this ordinance granting an amendment to the construction manager at risk agreement. I've not spoken in this chamber since I left the City Council in 2009, so for an issue to bring me out of retirement must be significant. Back in September of 2024, a binding contract between the City of Omaha and McCarthy Building Companies, an out-of-state contractor, was executed for the Papio Secondary Treatment Design Project. Within that contract, it explicitly states that the CMAR, McCarthy, will solicit competitive bids for all the work. The agreement further states that McCarthy may prepare bid packages for the construction work the CMAR may wish to self-perform, so as long as doing so will not limit bidding by competitive bidders. CMAR will award the construction work to the responsible bidder submitting the lowest responsive bid. It's my understanding that McCarthy did not bid out the construction work, and their cost for the construction work on this project will cost Omaha $411 million, including some significant fees. It's also my understanding that this is approximately $130 million over the initial cost estimates by the city. By the council approving this amendment, which eliminates the requirement of competitive bidding, Omaha tax and ratepayers are not afforded the assurances of policy guardrails with the lowest and best bid practices. And to illustrate that point, a local contractor submitted a cost estimate of their work on this project for $75 million less, yet it will not be considered by the city. My question is, how is not abiding by the contract to bid out work deemed reasonable and legal? We pay the fourth highest property taxes in the country in Nebraska. We have significant infrastructure needs in Omaha. Think about how that $75 million could impact both property tax landscape as well as the other infrastructure needs of the city. And I understand the sewer fees are paying for this project. This is bad policy not only because it's costly to Omaha taxpayers, but it's not transparent. Considering the lack of competitive bidding that has hit recent state news cycles, I urge you to reconsider the approach of the city and reject this amendment and competitively bid out the construction work. Thank you for your time today, as well as your service to the community.
Thanks for being here today. Are there any other opponents?
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Chris Hawkins, President and CEO of Hawkins Construction Company, address 2516 Deer Park Boulevard, and I live in Council District 3. Thank you for your service, President Bagley. First, I want to be abundantly clear. I am not here as a business dispute, and I am not asking the city to write a construction contract to Hawkins Construction. I am here as an issue of good governance and transparency, and my objection is based on a failure to follow process and the resultant exorbitant costs that came as a result. As to cost, you will note the original published estimate in the RFP for this project was $270 million for construction, and you are now being asked to approve a construction GMP of $400 million, which, when considering scope reductions in comparison to those two numbers, is an increase of almost 60%. That cannot be explained by inflation. The only reasonable answer and explanation is because of the failure of process. I will also testify to you as a subject matter expert. I don't have time in my 3 minutes to tell you all that Hawkins has built or all we have done from the city, but I will tell you that we have built the vast majority of wastewater work since 1960 here. And as such, we know very accurately what this project should cost. We have provided an independent estimate, and I can tell you with absolute certainty this project you are being asked to approve today is tens of millions of dollars more expensive than it should be. And the reason is because of failure of process. Specifically, within pre-construction in the CMAR process, competitive bidding is a standard critical element of the CMAR's role. And that is industry standard, and it was explicitly and clearly required in the pre-construction contract Council approved in September 2024. However, that process was not followed. In the ordinance you're presented with, the city admits that they allowed McCarthy to forego this element for over 2/3 of the work. Doing so was a violation of the contract. It was a violation of the expectations that this council had and what was in the best interest of the taxpayers of Omaha. That error was a fatal flaw and grounds for you to reject the GMP amendment now in front of you. To this point, the city argues that they were independent cost estimators. I don't question their intent or their commitment to their client, but I do question the true independent nature. Within the ordinance in front of you, it clearly spells out this was a collaborative process. The estimators saw McCarthy's number in multiple rounds and were clearly influenced by it. I would describe their role less as independent and more, frankly, as negotiators. Within that negotiation, it further produced very favorable and very out of the ordinary fee modifications along with a number of other contract modifications to McCarthy. Those fees in themselves produced $30 million more for McCarthy than the pre-construction contract allowed. All of these raise serious issues.
Mr. Hawkins, your 3 minutes is up, and I'm sure council members might have questions for you, so stay close, if you will. Thank you. Other opponents? Seeing none, public hearing is closed. Councilmember Fesserson, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. I think contractual issues like this are always difficult for a city council to handle because none of us are experts in the details we're talking about here, and it's very difficult to summarize those details in a 3-minute commentary for anybody, even someone who does this every day. But the dollar figures we're talking about here certainly gets your attention. It gets all of our attention when we have a disagreement about a contractual issue and how that went and what those implications may be. So I just have a few follow-up questions from what we heard today. And we've all had briefings on these issues too, in depth, and also memos from both proponents and opponents today. So I might want to just clarify a few things that we've talked about in that respect too. And I want to be clear that I'm not questioning anybody's motives here or anybody's ethics. I think everyone is trying to do the right thing for the project and for the citizens and for the taxpayers here. But as Mr. Tyler appropriately recognized, this is a major project for our city. You don't always think about the importance of our sewer and sewer treatment, but that is in fact one of the most important things the city does. And this is a massive project, so I think it's important to just kind of walk through a few of these issues. So I was actually a member of the CMAR committee representing the council. This is a fairly new process the city has adopted. And every time there is a CMAR process, there's a member of the city council on that committee, and this time it was me. It was my first time. I believe that selection process was fair and above board and handled well, but the results were very close. And I think both contractors we have here today are very capable and have shown they can do most any city project, and they were the two top bidders that day by a mile. Having said that, my experience with the CMAR process, I feel, has been a little squishy, just to get my arms around it and how it works, as compared to a low bidding process, lowest and best bid, as we typically see. And I will say, at the conclusion of that process, I was aware that unsuccessful bidders were communicated to that the results of the process, of course, but then that this was a major project that would likely include additional participation from local contractors and additional work possibly to be bid along the way. I think that's part of the angst we're hearing about today, that maybe that hasn't happened so far. So the first issue that kind of gets my interest is this ordinance we're being asked to approve next week amends the original CMAR agreement the city council adopted for this project. And I think it does, in fact, change a section that originally said, when we get to this point, additional work would be bid, not just self-performed. And I think that original language even said it must be bid, but if the self-performer was lower, that could be chosen. There's been some disagreement, I think, whether this language deletes it or modifies it, but the fact is it does change it to say that doesn't have to happen and it can be self-performed. So I think that is accurate to express that concern. I will say, though, in talking with Public Works, I think they feel strongly that in working with the self-performance contractor, that they feel that's going to produce a better result and may produce better savings or better timeliness. But I also think we don't know that. Mr. Tyler, I don't know if you might be available for a question in that respect. I know you engaged a third party to review that scenario, and you felt that was the best outcome you could present to the city?
Yeah, we go into these things fully aware that if we do not feel it's going the way it should be going with the contractor we're working with, that's McCarthy, that we have an off-ramp. We were comfortable with how things were going with McCarthy. We felt they were working in a very collaborative manner, but even with that, without it being required as part of this contract, we engaged a third party to come in and look at the costs for the city. HDR at a cost, McCarthy at a cost. We engaged that third party to look at that cost. If they would have came in and said, "You're nuts, this cost does not look good," we would have taken an off-ramp, but that's not the result that we got. We got a third-party verification that these costs are appropriate and reasonable for the city. So we relied on that third party to validate the approach we were doing and the cost that we were getting as part of this GMP. I think you might have some legal questions, and I'm going to refer those to Ryan.
Okay, that answered my question on that for now, but there's no doubt what we're being asked to vote on next week does modify that language to allow that to occur, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to, again, how we are able to do that, I will defer those questions to Ryan.
Okay. One more question for you while you're up there, because I think this is more your territory than anything legal. The RFP, I think, originally estimated a $350 million cost for the project, and we're now looking at $411 million. And there's been some assertions that it could be done for $70 million less, or whatever that number might be. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of money. I believe you would say going the route you're suggesting with self-performance is the best route for taxpayers. Is that accurate to say?
I don't want to say self-performance is the best route. Okay, what I want to say is we chose a methodology for this project to manage risk upfront. Okay, so there's a number of things built into our guaranteed maximum price that would not normally be included in a bid price. For example, the guaranteed maximum price with McCarthy includes over $24 million of contingencies up front that can be used if needed, okay, by us, okay, by the contractor if he sees some things outside of scope, by the city if we see the need to, hey, here's something not included in the original scope, but let's take advantage and let's do this thing now. So those things always happen along a project. When they happen along a design bid build project, those are complete unknowns that we're going to have to pay for with a change order. So we're trying to get as much of that change management that occurs during a project understood upfront and managed by the risks that we understood and are included in the guaranteed maximum price. Okay, I think it's important that this is a guaranteed maximum price. We intend to come in below that. Okay, on a low bid, you're going to have a tendency to go up because you pay for change orders after the fact. And I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong. Both types of alternative delivery or design bid build have their place. We believe that managing the risk was important enough on this project to do the CMAR project. I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah,
I think I'm kind of rambling a little bit.
No, I think
so
that's
apologize.
fair. You see it as a way to control risk. It's risk mitigation.
Mhm.
But I think we also can't say this is definitely cheaper for taxpayers. The only way to know that would be to go to market, right?
Well, one thing I'm going to say is we went to market with a vast majority of the work that's in this project. Okay, I'll name a local contractor that's doing $40 million. Commonwealth. Been doing work for a long time in this city. Their bid submitted to McCarthy was evaluated against other electrical contractor bids. We picked Commonwealth as our electrical contractor that will perform work at this treatment plant. There's a big list of scopes of work that are bid out to the local community, to the regional community, if that's where we have to go. But there are a number of scopes of work that are some within McCarthy's self-perform work. They have subcontractors that they bid out within their own work that's under self-perform. There's a large number of subcontractors working on this project for the city that had a process of, are you interested in the project? Are you interested in submitting a bid? Here's how we're going to solicit those bids. I'm going to use an example just because it's an easy one, but masonry, bricklayers, 4 of them submitted bids on the project. The low bidder was chosen. That's just an example. That's the easy one because it sticks in my head. But electrical, mechanical, there's a number of different scopes of work within this project, including scopes of work that were specific to SEBs that are being done by contractors within this community, and contractors were part of a bidding process inside of the CMAR process.
Okay.
I know that's hard to understand, but that's what's been going on for the past few months.
I appreciate that, and that's actually is a good segue into my next series of questions here, because that was definitely communicated to all bidders that regardless of who was awarded the major contract, there would be local work for and bidding for lots of other folks who may be interested. So I guess my first question is to your last remark. Do you have a percentage of what that local work is outside of McCarthy that you were just describing?
I'm not going to have that. It's something that I'm sure I can get.
Okay.
Okay, but I just don't have that off the top of my head. I do know the number of the dollar value of SEBs. It's going to sound like a small number, but it's $1.8 million. And it was a list of work packages that were looked at with our HR&R department of here's the type of work we have going on in the project. Here's our local SEB contractor base. Let's reach out to them. Let's try to get as many as we can involved. And we bid-specific packages, McCarthy bid-specific packages that were given to the SEBs as low bidders on certain portions of the work. So that's a number that I know and I can mention, and there was a lot of work that went into that process. But again, that's small contractors. There's a lot of other contractors working on this project.
I would be interested in the overall subcontractor number, but I was going to talk about SEBs too. So the 1.8 million, that's out of how much? What's the larger number that represents? 1.8 million out of
411.
Yeah. So that's a concern of mine. As a member of that committee, a big factor for me was the bidders that talked about engaging SEB work in the city for this major project. I know this is a project, the nature of this project may be difficult in that respect to really reach the 14% or 18 or 20% we like to get to with SABs. But clearly, $1.8 million out of $411 million is concerning to me. And all bidders talked a lot about engaging SEBs, and McCarthy did especially, I would say. That was a factor in my thinking, too. But I have to say that's a pretty disappointing number.
I think if you talk to our HR&R department about the process that we went through working with them, McCarthy, our engineers working with HR&R, and what's the available contractor base within that SEB contractor base, what scopes of work are available, how many of these small contractors want to lock in their prices over the next 6 years. All those were factors into, okay, let's do the best we can do to engage these small local contractors. And so talk to our other departments on how the process was followed and how much work we went into trying to engage as much as possible.
Okay. And then to the comment made by the carpenters, we do, of course, care about responsible subcontractors. And from the city's perspective, we would check any subcontractor in that respect, right? Or have the contractor themselves guarantee they are engaging responsible subcontractors, not folks that are doing 1099s and things like that, right?
And that, again, those are things that on any contract we have, we're going to look to make sure that we're working with, that our contractors are working with staff they should be working with.
Yeah.
I understood the comment. My comment on that is no matter what the contract is, we're going to be watching out for that.
Yeah, regardless if it's CMAR or lowest and best bid.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. Okay, thank you. And then maybe just two last things. I see others have lights on too. So if this contract was approved next week, obviously you would go to notice to proceed. It sounds like maybe as soon as April. But as you know, it's a very long project, about 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
If it was not approved, I suppose what you'd have to do is consider bidding the work. Would that be the logical plan B?
I'm not exactly sure what the logical plan B is. We would have to go back as a department and evaluate things. I would talk to my boss, Bob Stubbe, and we'll have an answer for you on that.
And under either scenario, as was noted, the revenue that pays for this large project it's not property tax and it's not federal funds, it's sewer use funds.
Correct.
So regardless, there's no funding at jeopardy here, whether we had a notice to proceed in April or some later time, right?
No funding. So no, and I know Mr. Vogel did say, he's here to watch out for taxpayer funds, and he did make the correction that these aren't property taxes or sales taxes, but the jeopardy, and I'll just go back to, is that I'm not sure how fast we would be able to gear up and go back out to getting a contractor on board after a bidding process or some other way to go back into CMAR. I'm not sure. I'm just going to say that there would be a process that we would have to go back into. That wouldn't be just as easy as putting plans out for bidding. That would be contractors going back in and renegotiating subcontracts. That would be a lot of work involved in order to just get the project back out to where it could be back to the market. to appropriately get that back out to a way to deliver the construction side.
Okay. You know, some products we see have a lot of federal funds involved, and oftentimes if you're changing a timeline or changing a plan, sometimes you risk that federal funding, but that's not the case here.
We're not risking federal funding. I'll point back to, again, the equipment. We were going to do the work at our Missouri River treatment plant first. After some of the issues we were having with the current secondary treatment at our Papillion Creek wastewater treatment plant, we saw the necessity to where we just really need to get this project going. And I know 6 years sounds like a long time, but it is critical to get that current infrastructure offline and get new infrastructure online.
Yeah, and I realize there's lots of moving parts here too with the Omagro facility and other things that these improvements entail, as well as your many customers in the region, not just the City of Omaha. Yeah. Lastly, for me, I spent my whole time talking about number 51 here, but this is the same public hearing for number 52, which is also a major expenditure of about $88 million. But the aqua aerobics system is a procurement contract, right? So
correct.
It's purchasing granular sludge treatments.
So it's basically so this process we're using, and I'll try to simplify it, but basically the equipment we're buying is proprietary. Okay, it is patented. We are working with a system that only they can provide. We selected a methodology to purchase that basically outside of the GMP and purchase that ourselves to take on some of that risk as a city and basically pay a little bit of oversight on that part that we take on ourselves. But it's an extremely important, it's the biggest part of what the proprietary new technology that we're using. And when I say new, it's been around the world for, I don't know, maybe a decade, maybe, probably not. We're going to be the biggest one in the world. But the technology, activated sludge, has been around for decades. Treatment plants all over the world use it. Their technology allows that process to be built at a much smaller footprint at a greatly reduced cost. Okay, that's the technology we're using. That's why we're doing a procurement of $88 million with that company. That $88 million price includes procurement and services of delivery during that project, their staff being on site to help us with the installation and how to work that project. So it's $88 million equipment plus services during the installation process and making sure we can get it up and running properly.
Yeah. And for anyone who hasn't taken that tour yet, it's a pretty interesting tour to see how the sludge and the cake works. I recommend it.
Yeah.
All right. I would say on that part of what we're talking about, though, I think all parties would agree that's a procurement contract that should proceed regardless of what happens next week.
I believe so. I agree.
Yeah. Okay. That's my last question for now. I'll yield the floor to others. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harding, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll start out at the top by saying, and Jim, you can take a seat if you'd like. I'm not here to question anyone's ethics or motives. I think McCarthy does great work. Not only have we seen that as evidenced by the projects in the city, but in the other markets that they're in as well. Hawkins, you can say the same thing, certainly about the work that they do and the reputation that they have. And I certainly don't dispute the city or Public Works ethics or intentions. They always work in the interests of the taxpayers and in this case, really the users, because some of those are outside of the jurisdiction of the City of Omaha. But I think I'll start off by saying, I think if the methodology of the original agreement was followed and we arrived at $411 million, we would not be having this conversation. But that's where I jump off the train, I guess, is I don't know that what was originally agreed to in the original agreement in 2024, especially with I'll get into a couple different areas, but the one that I really hang my hat on this or get caught up on is the process that was agreed to in the original agreement as it relates to self-performance of work and what was actually done. And now we're having an agreement come to us today for consideration that we're going to potentially vote on next week that actually reset the rules and the processes to get to this point. So with that, I'll ask Mr. Hawkins to come up if you would, please. So as I understand it, and I've had plenty of conversations with Public Works as well as with Hawkins, but in the 2024 agreement, one of the areas originally agreed to was that the process for self-performance of work. Could you walk through your understanding of how that read and maybe what is changed in the agreement that we're to consider next week?
Sure, yeah. Bear with me, these are long documents, so if I want to reference something, it'll take me a second to pull out. But this one's easy to know. In the ordinance, or in the pre-construction contract approved in September 2024, the primary bid element was defined in Article 10 of that contract. And then you will note the change is very straightforward. In the proposed ordinance in front of you, Article 10 is suggested to be deleted in its entirety and replaced instead with language indicating that the CMAR may choose their own self-performed work subject to third-party review of pricing.
Okay.
By the way, in fairness, if I can, I appreciate the disclaimer that everyone else has made, and I should make the same. I'm not questioning that was done by any nefarious motive. I'm not questioning anybody's ethics or motivations here. The reality is good, smart people can still make mistakes.
Okay. So the other thing, and again, in conversations with the city too, it's been said that things were done legally in an ethical manner. I would say yes, if it was done so with the original language, but the answer is really yes if we adopt the new language. If we're doing it open book with McCarthy, which is the process I'm told actually kind of was followed for the self-performance work, if that would have been included in the original document, then that would have been a proper or an acceptable way to do it. But it wasn't in the original document that way. So in my estimation, it looks like what we're really trying to do is have corrective language in what we're to vote on next week that kind of sets the clock backwards so that process could be followed. Would that be kind of a fair way to say it?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of, yes, that's a fair way to say it. And I think you're correct in terms of the characterization of this being done, this process being legal. Legal is not the same as best interest of the city. And legal in terms of complying with city ordinance, which I think is a little arguable, but state law, maybe. That's not the same as being in compliance with contract terms. This process was not in compliance with contract terms. I understand your point that it would have been if the language now in front of you for approval was in the original contract. It wasn't in that contract, and it wasn't for a reason. That language would be very atypical for this sort of contract nationwide in our industry.
I would agree. And so walk me through, and I think I had talked with Councilmember Festerson, and it was said that there was an ability to self-perform, or I'm sorry, that some of the work would be bid out. And I think in my conversations with you, it's your understanding that maybe that ability was not offered up.
That's correct. We tried, and we have documentation of our effort to reach out and have the opportunity to submit a bid, at least on specific packages of work, such as concrete, such as site work, the things that we normally do. And that offer was not made available to us, which, again, it's pretty surprising. I think Mr. Tyler noted clearly that in the previous project, they received one bid, rebid it, received one bid. It was us both times. We've bid on pretty much every project. To think that it was in the best interest of the city or the best way to manage risk or the best way to manage costs to exclude the one entity that regularly bids on this work is, at best, I would say, a head scratcher.
Okay. Let me ask a couple of questions about some other parts of this agreement too. I know we talked a little bit about the fees and kind of the, if you will, fees on top of fees as it appears in this agreement to allow for something like that to happen. So tell me your understanding of how that's happening. And it seems to me that's not kind of a standard or customary way to assess or to collect fees.
Again, that would run very afoul of normal expected terms. So what you're talking about, and again, it's worth referencing the two documents here, that being the pre-construction contract approved in 2024, and now the ordinance in front of you. The pre-construction contract very clearly describes how fees shall be applied and how it shall be calculated. And if you'll bear with me to pull out the spec section so that you can have it. Fee is determined by Article 7 of the pre-construction contract, which very clearly, if you follow it all the way through, applies to direct cost of work. So that would be the permanent in-place construction work, not indirect costs, not overhead.
So not soft costs.
Which very clearly in the contract includes on-site management, et cetera. Right? That's what the pre-construction contract says. The proposed ordinance in front of you allows fee to be applied to the entire project, including nearly $90 million of indirect cost. That's pretty significant. I think that there's another fee element you're getting right into, and this one I think should be extremely concerning. It's concerning to me, and if you'll bear with me, we could do some math here. I think you mentioned fee on fee.
I did.
Okay. If you get into the middle of your proposed ordinance, and I apologize, there aren't page references I can get to here, but thank you.
You can use the Elmo too if you need. Put it up on
there. You go. The sign says don't touch equipment, so no one's I listen to rules very carefully. How do I zoom in?
There's a little, there you go.
Which, the scroll.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go.
All right. Perfect. So as noted.
You might want to slide that over just a little too, if you could, so we can see the other way. So we can see the.
How about here? These are the main numbers you need to see here.
Okay.
Okay. So subtotal cost of work, that's the $278.7 million. That would be, by your pre-construction contract, the amount fee should be applied to. Then you have your indirect costs down here, $121.8 million. That's how you get to your, and that, I'm sorry, includes the $30 million of fees. So indirects, general conditions, contingency, et cetera, that's $90 million, right? Fee was applied to the entirety of this project, not allowed under the original pre-construction contract. Back to my previous point, there was some level of negotiation here, which makes me question a little bit true authenticity of the independence. But here's my biggest problem, and you have to do the math backwards as we talk about fee. If you calculate this total number right here, this is the $400 million of construction cost, which includes $30 million of fee. That would imply that the total cost of direct work and indirect work is $370 million, right? Everybody with me there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you take $370 million times the revised fee of 7.5%, the total fee amount you get should be $27.5 million. But instead, it's $30 million. Why? The answer is because this fee was included in the total calculation and feed again. You have a 7.5% fee applied to $27.5 million of initial fee. That's a $2.5 million fee. I don't know how to describe it as anything but a giveaway. This math is really concerning to me, and it should be to you. Beyond failure to follow process, having that kind of unaccounted for dollar amount, $2.5 million is a lot of money. It's a lot. I get it seems small in the size of this project. That's a lot of money to anybody in the city of Omaha. I think a no-bid $2.5 million contract caused a lot of consternation at the state level, and that's what we're talking about as kind of a throwaway here. I don't know how you can describe that number.
I will note, and I think it's interesting that in the original agreement, I think the fee was actually 8%, and now it's 7%. It's a reduction in fee, yet the fees actually increased, which is
that's correct. It's
kind
like
of an interesting thing to note, I thought.
well, again, you could run the math. If you applied 8.75% to $278 million, you end up with 20-some million, not 30, which, by the way, is not inclusive of the self-performed fee, which was also added in the proposed ordinance in front of you. There was no consideration of a self-performed fee in the pre-construction contract. Nonetheless, there is one in here, and it amounts to about 15% or another $30 million. That was the point I was trying to make in my initial introduction. Again, without alleging anything untowards here, it's just bad math. The pre-construction contract at the agreed-to fee would have produced a fee of about $20 million. After a year and a half of negotiations, the fee on this thing is nearly $50 million. That should raise a lot of red flags. At a bare minimum, questions from you.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I know the one that I really caught my attention really was the change in the language of what we're to consider next week as it relates to the bidding of some of the work or how the self-performance would be dealt with. And to me, it seems clear that original process was not followed. I mean, and then when we start talking about, maybe the potential of tens of millions and multiples of tens of millions of dollars of savings that could be realized, I think that's something that we really seriously need to consider. I know you were kind of limited in your time to go over a lot of these things. I appreciate you letting me bring some of them up, but I know there are some other issues that you had some concerns with, and I guess I'll give you the opportunity to close out with some of those.
No, I appreciate that. I think we've hit the main headline items. I'd note a little bit too. You've made the point that if this language and if this process was more clearly spelled out in the pre-construction contract or spelled out in the RFP, we might be in a different place today. I agree with that. But I would also take it even a little further back in the timeline and say, if this process was clearly identified in the RFP, I think you would have seen a different approach from Hawkins. You would have seen a different approach from Kiewit, the other two proposers on this project. And so there is a point about precedence here, and there is a point about if the city is going to put proposals out in the open market and expect apples to apples responses, they darn well better stick with the process that they outline in the RFP. Otherwise, you aren't getting a comparative result between different bidders. I think that's a pretty poor precedent to set. And that is another point I would leave you with in terms of my strong recommendation to reject the amendment in front of you. If you don't, there is a precedent set, right? And there is a precedent that a contract this well thought through, this thick, with this many prescriptive terms that the council approved and expected to be followed, that they don't have to be, what does that really mean for good governance? What's next for you after that?
Yeah. I'll quickly, if I could close with maybe the timeline issue. Councilmember Festerson brought this up too. And I think Mr. Tyler addressed a little bit of it too. I mean, we're not at risk of any federal funds that would be lost if we weren't proceeding within a certain time frame. I think if this doesn't get agreed to, and I suppose there are two things that could happen. One, it could go back to the original agreement that was done in '24 with those terms. Or two, it could go out as we could take the option of a hard bid process too. So, and that would probably add maybe, let's say, 3-4 months, maybe somewhere in that time frame?
I think that's probably a better question directly for Mr. Tyler and
Okay.
Public Works. I will tell you by experience, we've been through multiple projects before where they have been relet for whatever reason. We've seen this type of situation happen before. The general time frame would be 3 months, 4 months. I would note it took almost 2 years to get a GMP together, which that took a little while. So I don't know that there's been a demonstration of a real sense of urgency already at this point in the project. I would think that it could be bid pretty quickly. Now, there was a point made that it takes a while to get contractors to go renegotiate contracts. None of that would be relevant if this project is hard bid or competitively led under the traditional design bid build process, which is what I would be encouraging. You bid the job as a general contractor and then you move on. For what it's worth, we were able to obtain the plans once they were at 100% design in late November, and that's when we produced an unsolicited proposal to the city. It took us 6 weeks to do it, and we were able to bid out the entire project. Frankly, as a side note, we also identified in our proposal, which Public Works and the mayor's office has, approximately $4.5 million of SEB potential. So there were packages in a 6-week span that we were able to identify and put forward versus the sub $2 million that's presented to you here. A little unsure about the level of it, but that is pretty concerning to us as well.
Well, and I'd say that 4.5 or whatever million is on top of a much smaller denominator as well, too.
That's correct. But my point was
a larger percentage of the work.
Yeah, that was 4.5 that we found with only a very short period of time. I think with a longer period of time, and when what I would have expected in a CMAR process is to be able to be more creative. That's part of the appeal to CMAR. And I don't refute, by the way, the value of the CMAR process. It certainly can have its applications if the processes within it are followed correctly. I think that this job is unfortunately a lost opportunity in that sense, to have that period of time to help develop potential SEBs, folks who maybe don't have back office type support, where really this type of process allows support of SEBs. That's I'll admit a little bit of an editorializing comment, but it is a concern.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Melton, you're recognized.
Thank you. And, I'm going to ask Mr. Vogel a couple questions.
Okay. I'm happy to
stay
sit
close.
for a minute.
Ms. Vogel, thank you for coming
Sure.
down. So we haven't changed much since 2009.
A lot more technology,
I think it looks the same,
a lot
right?
less hair for me.
You had mentioned, I understand what the Platt Institute, they're always looking out for what we heard are taxpayers, and it was kind of mentioned, well, these are sewer fees, not taxes. This is money that residents are required to pay for essential city services, correct?
Sure, these are outlays from constituents and taxpayers, not necessarily in the form of property taxes, but other fees. Fees and taxes are generally, I lump them in the same category.
Yeah, revenues that the city government is collecting from the residents.
From taxpayers,
so, yeah, and I mean, these fees are substantial. I think you probably remember you had to pass these fees. We've been paying these sewer fees for a couple decades now in order to pay for not only the CSO, but our current sewer and current infrastructure, which, by the way, I think is extremely important. I mean, when you talk about essential services, sewer and water, you can't get much more essential than that. But if I could just ask you a couple questions in regards to, now that you've kind of listened to both sides, what's your biggest concern about this? I mean, there's the money. It sounds like we're going to have to spend quite a bit of money, but what, in your opinion, are best practices, and what's most concerning here?
I think and I hope my comments alluded to this. I think what is most concerning is that it's very clear, and I'm not an attorney, the contract that was approved previously between the city and McCarthy states that any future construction work must be bid out if they want to perform the job. It was not. And this amendment that's before you today is trying to correct that. And that is not in the best interest of taxpayers who are looking and expecting government officials and government leaders to, especially when the contract says it, to have the lowest and best bid process. And generally, that is not transparent. It does not give taxpayers and ratepayers the confidence that the political subdivision, in this case the city of Omaha, is acting in their best interest. And I look at the cumulative effect of sewer fees, property taxes that we pay, inheritance tax, taxes on licensing here in Nebraska is some of the toughest landscape that we have across the whole country. And so by not competitively bidding, I think that's a slap in the face to rate and taxpayers that we are not, as a city, as a political organization, taking that contract seriously, but we're not putting the ratepayer first either.
Well, and I think you make a good point on transparency. There was a comment made that amending the contract and having the self-bid was going to be more transparent. And I guess I was confused by that because I think that what you're saying, the open bidding process is actually the most transparent thing to do for a political subdivision.
Yeah, if I'm a taxpayer, I'm only going to speak for myself today, but I hear from a lot of them across the state. If a project for subsequent construction work is supposed to be bid out and it is not, I don't have the confidence that I, as a rate or taxpayer, am paying for a project that is based on reasonable and the lowest cost out there.
And because it was in the original contract, it requires a bid. Have you, in your experience, either at the Platt Institute or as a former council member, in your time before my time, have you ever seen a contract this large that's been a no-bid contract?
Absolutely not. That's why I'm here today.
Even in the state?
No.
I mean, because I know you do statewide.
Right. Right.
To me, that's what's giving me probably the biggest problem as a lawyer, going back and saying, hey, we're going to be in violation of the contract, so let's agree to go back and change the contract. I find that very problematic because it wasn't just a contract between the city and another business. Other businesses were relying on that language because they were expecting to be able to have a chance at a future bid on the project. And I think that's maybe the problem I have as an elected official is that that's what we presented to the public.
It was mentioned, I think Mr. Hawkins and maybe a question by a council member alluded to this. I'm not saying that state law shouldn't be recognized and looked at, but to me, the underlying legal case here is that an agreement was signed that says that bidding would happen. It did not, and you are being asked next week to vote on an amendment to wipe that off the contract.
But it's an amendment to basically void the requirement to have bids. I mean, which...
That is correct.
I mean, they're...
And that does not give taxpayers the assurance that U7 and the city of Omaha are acting in their best interests. I hate to be that blunt. I've been in your seat for 8 years.
No, I know.
This job for 13 years, watching political subdivisions all across the state.
And I would agree. I'm not. I think it was stated by Councilman Festerson, Councilman Harding. This isn't. I'm not saying that our public works, anybody in our public works department, has acted, or our legal department has acted with anything but integrity. I think they got into this and saw maybe an opportunity and then figured out how to make it happen with the honest belief that it may be saving us money. And so I'm not questioning necessarily the integrity of our public works department. And I want Mr. Tyler to know that. And I'm saying it publicly because I would have to say that Jim Tyler might be one of the hardest working public servants that I've ever met and that the city of Omaha will ever have. My concern is, again, down to the process, the legality of it as well, to change an agreement that was relied upon, I think, by others and to the public. And just taking this action of you're asking the city council to vote to remove a bidding requirement so that we can have a no bid contract. It just almost kind of, it's too much, I think, for me to be able to process or defend.
It doesn't pass the smell test. It's not transparent. And I am sincere about this. If McCarthy came to me and the shoe was on the other foot, I would still be standing here today.
That it's not
This is about
specific to a
process. This
person.
is not about companies or quality of work. It's about the confidence that taxpayers can have after this project is complete.
And I think the amount of money that we're talking about
It's
is
significant.
substantial.
It's tens of millions.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the fact
Sure.
that you came down to actually give us your opinion, and based on your experience with other cities in the rest of the state, I think it's helpful for us too. So,
Happy.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Goodwin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And this discourse has been very informative. We appreciate everyone speaking today. When we had our briefing from Jim today, one of the things he kept saying was, ask Ryan. And so I'm going to ask the city's legal counsel to come up and maybe just wrap this up for us in a way. One of the questions that came up was, why were the changes made? My understanding is that this started with the committee. As Council Member Festerson alluded to, that was made up of the mayor's office, council representative, citizen representative, Public Works, 3 members of Public Works, and HDR. But then by the time there was a decision to say, let's just go with McCarthy, and I'm making that very simplified, was the committee still utilized for that decision?
Ryan Wiesen, Deputy City Attorney. If I'm understanding your question correctly, I believe it was. This process is set forth in Nebraska statute under the Political Subdivisions Construction Alternatives Act. And that act specifies that CMAR projects can be used for wastewater, sewer treatment type projects like that. And it sets forth kind of an open competitive evaluation and proposal process where when the CMAR process was initially identified, a number of entities, to include McCarthy and Hawkins, were evaluated by that committee that you just spoke to. And that is how the CMAR contract was originally awarded to McCarthy.
And could you move your microphone up maybe just a little? Okay, so you're saying that the committee was utilized even to then make the decision to go with McCarthy. There was a statement that was made that the Hawkins, and that was made in our briefing today, so I'm alluding to something that may have not been said in today's public hearing, that Hawkins guaranteed minimum, McCarthy guaranteed maximum, but they were more qualified. Was that a decision that the committee made? And I can see Jim saying, let me clarify that. And so Jim.
The committee, when we had interviews, when we made a selection, they were done. The committee was done at that time. At that point, the committee's done with their work. The city starts to negotiate a contract with who the committee chooses.
Yes.
Okay, so I think I may have not quite explained that, but that's exact. The committee's done at that point. We don't go back to that committee at any time. Okay. I think what you're referring to is that, the guaranteed maximum price that we have, McCarthy, is a result of the CMAR process that we went through. Okay, and I think the statement you're referring to is that in a guaranteed maximum price, if done right, the ultimate price to the city should have a tendency to go down. In a low bid price, you're going to have a tendency for those costs to go up through change orders that happen. So I think that's what you're referring to, but out of clarity, the committee's done when that selection of McCarthy was made. Does that help?
Yes, it does help. Thank you.
Yep.
And I also wanted, though, to ask about the open book process, because I also again, in my notes have it that it was stated that the open books process is actually more transparent. Am I getting that right as well?
We believe that by allowing the open book process, and this is happening, it happened during the development of the GMP, and it will be utilized throughout the construction of the project, is that open book basically allowed us to look inside of the costs that the contractors don't like to let us know. Okay, how much productivity are they going to be able to achieve along the way? Because the contractor is going to tell you, we don't like to tell people that because we can hide some profit there. Okay, but we said, you're going to open your books. We're going to agree to your productivity. You're not going to hide any profit there. We're going to have a transparent process to say, this is how much this equipment cost. This is how much these type of laborers are going to get paid. This is your productivity rate to achieve the work you need to achieve. All those costs were looked at, openly agreed to with McCarthy, the city, an engineer, and a third party. We believe that's very transparent. On a design bid build, you get a lump sum number that you compare against other lump sum numbers, and hopefully you take that lowest one and think that's the best one for the city. But there's a lot of things hidden inside that lump sum number that are outside of our control. I'm not saying there's anything that a contractor's trying to hide, but that's just the reality of a difference that we believe that open book process gave us transparency that's beyond what we usually have in a design bid build contract.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And so, Jim, you mentioned referring to our legal counsel multiple times in our briefing today. Is there anything else you felt Ryan could clarify for us today, or through this discussion has it come out?
I think there's some questions being asked about, and I know some people are saying whether it's legal or not, that doesn't necessarily mean it's right, but I think Ryan is who I would refer to if there's any questions on the legality of what we did. Okay, we worked with our law department entirely along this process to make sure that the legality of the process that we followed was in accordance with state law. And then everything that we did in making the changes, we felt was within the best interest of the city. But as it has to do with the legality of state law, that's where I defer to Ryan.
Ryan Weason, Deputy City Attorney. It's a very broad question, and so I'll try to give it just a very generalized, hopefully concise answer. And I'm going to try to focus it on my understanding of what at least I think I have heard of the main kind of objection is, and that is the change in contract terms essentially from provisions that said there will be this kind of bidding process to this open book process for certain self-perform functions. And I think that is before you today because not to avoid that bidding process like it has been suggested by some individuals, but because that process has already been done. At least that's my understanding from what Public Works has stated to me. And so if that understanding is incorrect, I'd encourage them and request them to clarify that. But it's my understanding that during this year-and-a-half process where they have evaluated this project and how it's supposed to be manufactured and designed and constructed, that McCarthy did go through a bidding process where they did solicit bids from other entities for performance of certain scopes of work, for performance of subcontracts, and that analysis was then done to compare certain of those bids with the self-perform open book protocol to determine what was the best for this project and what was the best for the city's ratepayers and for the city. And that what is before you is the result of that process. So it's not that this provision is being removed to avoid it. It's being amended because it's been done and to reflect the final conclusion, to reflect that the contractors have been selected and that an analysis has been done and that it has been determined that the open book protocol is the best for this contract, for the CMAR, in this project. And if my understanding of that is incorrect, I'd request that Public Works let me know. But that is at least my understanding of what has occurred. And to specifically address your question, I'm going to point to Nebraska Revised Statute, Section 13-2912. And it states that a construction management at risk contract may be conditioned upon later refinements in scope and price, and may permit the political subdivision, in agreement with the construction manager, to make changes in the project without invalidating the contract. And that is what has occurred here today, or has occurred over the past year and a half, I should say.
Thank you. I believe, just want to go through my notes because I have a lot of them. Yes, thank you.
I think Ryan and I just need to go back and make sure I understand what he said and what, because there was a self-perform process that was allowed with changes made in the contract, and I want to make sure that I'm on the same page with what Ryan just said, because I don't know if I exactly followed that. So.
Fair enough. I don't have any further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Melton, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I just kind of wanted to clarify something, that in the CMAR, you're choosing the contractor, general contractor that is going to do the design, and then try and work with coming up with the cost of that design, and then determining who the contractor will be to perform that. And there are provisions for a self-performance. I have to tell you, in my experience doing the Tranquility CMAR, seems to me that that's one that I did that also took a couple years and seemed to delay the project, but I will stay on topic. I'm just curious, Ryan, maybe I'll call you up, because here's the problem I have. I get that you're providing that the statute allows changes to be made to the contract. Okay, that the statute says that we can make changes. Here's the deal. What I think the city did, though, is they went ahead and did an open book self-performing analysis of McCarthy, which would be in violation of the current contract, and saying basically, we'll go ahead and do this, and then we'll ask the city to change the contract after we've already done this open book, no bidding process. Do you see the problem that I have? And that, although the state statute says you can make changes to the contract, I think what you're asking us to do is, we've already done the work, so now change the contract to approve what we've already done. Because it actually specifically says that it should be bid. The fact that they've bid out some janitorial, some electrical, some other things that, anybody else would have to bid out, the vast majority of this self-performing work did not get bid as the original contract required. So how do you justify that legally, other than you're saying, well, that's why you have to vote yes on it? I mean, isn't that kind of what you're saying?
Ryan Wiesen, Deputy City Attorney. I don't believe that's what I'm saying precisely, in part because I don't think that that construction work hasn't been done. I think as you phrased it, you've implied that the work has been done, and so we're asking you to approve it now. And
the work of the open book, the no bid work.
But none of the construction work has been done.
Right.
Correct. And that's what my understanding, and I'm not the technical expert here, is that that's what the open book pertains to, is costs incurred in the construction of the project, and that construction of the project has not started yet. So it's not that that work has started or been done, it's that it hasn't been done yet.
The work hasn't been done. So why don't we just leave the contract as is and have it bid? Because if we don't vote to change the contract, the work is going to have to be an RFP. It's going to have to go to bid, correct, under the current contract?
I'd have to look at the specific terms, but that's I think a political consideration, not a legal consideration.
You said did you just say it's a political consideration?
Whether or not to amend the contract?
Yeah.
It's up to the members, elected officials of the city council to approve it or not.
Well, I understand that. So I guess my question is there's a provision in Article 10 that requires it to be bid, that requires the work to go to a bid. So legally, the city would need to put this out for a bid if we don't amend the contract.
I'm happy to sit down with you.
Is that correct?
And look at specific sections. I don't have the specific provision in front of me right now. but I'm happy to sit down with you in a privileged setting and answer that question. But absent the contract amendment, the open book protocol wouldn't apply, is my understanding.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to call up Mr. Hawkins. Mr. Hawkins, I saw it. I don't have it in front of me. I believe it's Article 10, and you referenced it. So could you please state what article, do you have that?
Would you like me to read it to you?
Yeah, that would be great.
Yep.
Thank you. I meant to
nice
bring
to
it with
help.
me,
Thank
but
you.
since Mr. Wiesen didn't have it, I thought it might be important to actually read that article that we are asked to delete.
Yeah. Article 10 of the pre-construction contract, so this is page 12. And I should note this contract is on a EJCDC. It's an industry standard form. So original contract was very standardized contract. Article 10.01, performance of the authorized work. A, CMAR will solicit competitive bids on all the work included in each work authorization, including purchase of materials and equipment. All bids will be submitted to the city, directly to the city. And I'll pause there and note that's an important element because it allows a safeguard and ensure the CMAR doesn't have the opportunity to modify their numbers based on what's coming in from other entities, and you have a clear view of it. Skipping forward a little bit, CMAR may prepare bid packages for work the CMAR may wish to self-perform. There is an opportunity, as I think was noted, for CMAR to self-perform, so long as doing so will not limit bidding by competing bidders. CMAR must submit its bid in advance of receiving other bids and in the same manner that other bids are to be submitted. Bids are to be opened in the presence of the owner's project team. Lastly, CMAR will award the subcontract for the work under the work authorization to the responsible bidder submitting the lowest responsive bid for the portion of the work for which bids are received.
Okay.
CMAR may self-perform if CMAR is the low bidder.
So the original contract, and that's the article that I'm looking at what we're to vote on. That language has been removed on what we're being asked to vote on here.
That language is very specifically being removed. The proposed ordinance you have states, delete all of 10.01A in its entirety, and then replace with, and I'll summarize, replace with, CMAR essentially may self-perform if analyzed by a third party.
And then no mention, and obviously there's no mention of requirement to bid.
That's correct.
So is it your understanding, which is what I was asking Mr. Wiesen, so if I can, Mr. Wiesen, if I call you back up? Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Brian Wiesen, Deputy City Attorney.
Thank you. So that's the amendment, and I read it before, I just didn't bring it with me. So we are being asked to remove that article that requires bidding even if McCarthy's going to self-perform, it would require them to submit a competitive bid. And that's what we're being asked to remove it today in this public hearing.
Ryan Wiesen, Deputy City Attorney. I was trying to listen to two things at the same time, including Mr. Tyler, and Mr. Tyler informed me that that is the process that McCarthy used for the subcontracting things that were set forth in this amendment. So I don't
Then
think
why
it's
do we
fair to
need
say that
to?
it wasn't.
Then why do we need to remove it?
I think because the process had been completed and the current amendment reflects the finalized terms.
I mean, are you, Mr. Wiesen, you know what? We'll have this conversation later. I have a lot of respect for you. I'm having a hard time with you telling me. I mean, there's that specific language in Article 10 that specifically says the CMAR needs to bid the project. If they're going to have self-performing work, they need to submit a bid. They haven't submitted any bid, and you're asking us to remove this, and you're standing there in front of me telling me, oh, it's because the process is complete. That doesn't make sense. You wouldn't, if the process is complete, you would not need us to remove Article 10 out of the contract. The only reason you would need us to remove Article 10 out of the contract is so that we can avoid the bidding process for self-performing work by the CMAR. Is there any other reason that we would remove Article 10 from the contract?
Ryan Wiesen, Deputy City Attorney. I don't agree necessarily with that statement. I have been,
Wait, what part
I
of the
want to
statement
get
that we're removing
provisions
Article 10?
to amend the contract to reflect the finalized terms. And again, I've requested from Public Works that they provide the bid documents that they've received from McCarthy for the subcontracting work, and that we can get that to you.
No, I'm not.
And I'm happy
not
to go through that with you.
I'm talking about the bid for the self-performing work that McCarthy's going to do at a cost of somewhere, 200 and, I don't know, close to $300 million. That, excluding the subcontracting work for 1.8 million and maybe the, 30 or 40 million for electrical work. I'm talking about the work that McCarthy's actually doing that did not go out to bid pursuant to Article 10. And we are now being asked to delete Article 10 from the contract. And I think you may be being put in a difficult position because you may be having to give legal advice to both the council and Public Works. And I think it might be difficult because your honest answer may be something that Public Works doesn't want to hear. And so I think you're being put, in my opinion, as a lawyer, you're being put in a very difficult position, which is why I said maybe you and I can talk about this off the record, but this is the public hearing. And for purposes of transparency, that's what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to remove Article 10 that requires the CMAR to bid on the work that they're being given through the open book process.
I would agree that the amendment would remove this current terms in Article 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think from my understanding of what has occurred over the past year and a half, that the reason for that request is not to avoid that process, is what I think I'm trying to articulate and explain.
But it is avoiding that's exactly what it's doing. It's avoiding the bidding process.
Again, my understanding, and perhaps Public Works or McCarthy can further elaborate this, is there was an extensive review process that did include solicitation of bids and an analysis with a third party in HDR to determine that the open book protocol was the most efficient and best for the city of Omaha. Again, I'm not the subject matter expert in that, so I defer to that determination and that analysis from Public Works, but I'm happy to have...
But the original contract did not contemplate that. And there's specific language that requires bidding.
I think...
And now we're being asked to remove it. It's that simple. Article 10 was in the original contract, and we're being asked to approve a contract that has amended that out and deleted Article 10 in its entirety. It's as simple as that. And Article 10 specifically requires that this go to bid.
The contract amendment does change that.
Yeah.
As permitted by state statute.
I'm sorry. I'm done.
Thank you. Councilmember Harding, you're recognized.
Oh, I'm going to pick up on that too, Amy, because I had written down 10.01B. Let me start by asking this question, and I'll ask Ryan because it's a legal question. Is the open book process the same as the bid process?
Ryan Wiesen, Deputy City Attorney, no.
Okay, thank you. That's all I need for that. So 10.01B of the 24 agreement states that CMAR may prepare bid packages for work the CMAR may wish to self-perform, so long as doing so will not limit bidding by competitive bidders. Then that's the end of A. And then B says CMAR must submit bids in advance of receiving other bids. This is kind of interesting, I think, is because regardless of whether or not that the CMAR might or might not anticipate other bids coming in, prior to those coming in or anticipated to be coming in, they have to submit their bid prior to any of that. So my question is, was that done? So, Mr. Tyler, I think that question is probably posed to you. Was that done?
Can I?
And I'm sorry. Let me clarify further by saying, I understand that bids were solicited for other work, but I'm specifically talking about that work that was to be self-performed. they may have solicited bids on other parts of the contract and received those. But again, if they were to self-perform, they had to submit a bid prior to any other bid coming in for that same work. Was that done?
That's something that I would have to go back and make sure I ask my staff
Okay.
about that. I would like, if you would allow, to let McCarthy come up and respond to some of these questions about what they did to make sure appropriate work was bid out.
You know, I'm going to ask some questions. I have some more questions.
Okay.
If someone else wants to ask some questions of McCarthy, that's their prerogative.
Okay.
But again, I think it's very important to note that, okay, first of all, the answer was open book process is not the same as a bid process. In the original agreement, it clearly states that it has to be bid. And again, prior to receiving any other bids, CMAR, and I'm saying CMAR, not McCarthy. I'm saying CMAR because this is not directed at McCarthy, but the process. That prior to receiving any other bids, the same manner that other bids are to be submitted, the CMAR has to do that. Okay? That's what's in the original agreement. Now when you come to the one that we are to consider, again, so Article 10.01 in its entirety was to be removed, but it has replacement language for 10.01. So I'll note that. So, but in there, it now says CMAR may prepare bid packages for work the CMAR wish to self-perform in an open book, non-compete approach. As I understand the open book approach is basically, I'm going to simplify it, is that you basically sit down, you say, here's the work that we're going to perform, here are the basics, probably industry standards, and it's kind of, you have a third party look at it, who may also be one of the either Jacobs or HDR, or someone like that, and they say, yeah, that's about right. That's probably within industry standards, but it doesn't go through the process that they were originally told that they had to follow. And that's the portion, and again, I know Ryan said, it gives us the ability to change contract terms. Absolutely, I pointed out when we did change. We changed the percentage on the fees from 8% to 7.5%, which on the surface looked good, but when you look at the math, it actually didn't turn out so good. But what we're doing is we're retroactively trying to change the process. And that's what I have the problem with. I think a lot of us have. Again, there are other items in here that we've talked about that I think are problematic, but we keep coming back to this. And the open book process is not the same as the bid process, which was what was originally intended in the agreement and what's been deleted and replaced with an entirely different process going forward.
May I respond or not?
Yeah,
okay.
You can respond.
I'll just go ahead and say this, okay? I have answered questions prior to today and in my briefings and in the information I've provided to the best of my abilities.
I understand.
Okay? There are questions that I just don't remember the minute details you're asking. By the time you have to vote, I will make sure you have every answer to every question you're asking.
Not only do I appreciate that, but I know you're a man of your word, and you will do that. And I do appreciate that, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights.
Item 53, an ordinance to acquire private property for the construction of the North Ridge Drive 5B project.
Public hearing is now open on item 53. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon. I'm Hall City Council, Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, and Norton Hall Concerned Citizen Foundation, 4928 North 52nd Street. As I was mentioning earlier, as I talked to Mr. Hudd, when I flew into Nigeria, all I had to do was give them my American Express. That's why I'm like this one with these non-nuts. And they would send the propane.
Thank you. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents on item 53? Public hearing is closed. Councilmember Festerson, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. Just a quick note on this project. That's one we've been working on for quite some time. This represents just an ordinance of necessity for a major street project in the Florence area that finally improves an unimproved road. I'm told the bids have gone well on this project, which we're lowest and best bid for $2.8 million, we believe, and that's coming next. But that will allow this project to finally start, we believe, in March or April. So I know the Florence community and the Mormon Trail Museum and many others are excited to get this going. And I thank Public Works for sticking to it, and be happy to support this next week. Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights.
Item 54, an ordinance to approve the Conestoga Collection redevelopment agreement.
Public hearing is now open on item 54. Proponents, Mr. Seaton, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Don Seaton, City Planning. I'm here for any questions you may have.
Thank you. Any other proponents?
Thank you, Mr. President, council members. Bob Griffith, 11440 West Center Road, here on behalf of the applicant, the Mensch Group LLC. Again, here to answer questions, just in case you need to remember, this is kind of a visual. Four townhomes, 3-bed, 2-bath, 2,200 square feet apiece, 60 to 100% AMI, so there's a affordable component to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents?
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. I am generally always against TIF financing because I don't believe in the concept of without it, it would not get built. We don't elect people to go around making money for the rich guys who already are a construction company, a real estate developer, and a real estate company in most times. You're giving the big boys the break while taxing the little guys. The school districts lose money on the value of the property that you blight. That means for the people that are listening, that you reduce the value of that property way down so somebody can buy it for next to nothing, come to you to ask for a 20, 25-year loan on the cost of acquiring that, but you continue to tax the citizens in that area. On the promise that, hey, if you give me a banana today, I'll pay you for it 25 years from now. Because you'll get the value out of that increase in value if you sell your house 25 years from now. But as with people like ConAgra, they got some benefits and then they run out of town. So who's left holding the bag but the taxpayers? And that's wrong.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents here on item 54?
Yes, sir. Omaha City Council, Donnie R. Johnson, the Johnson Equestrian Foundation, North Omaha Concerned Citizen Foundation, 4928 North 52nd. As I mentioned to the council before, the Small Business Administration, SBA, and SCORE, they give us all the money we need if we go overseas and buy what we need.
Thank you. Are there any other opponents here today? Public hearing is closed. Councilmember Festerson, you're recognized. Sorry. Yep. Councilmember Goodwin, you're recognized. Is that
Thank
a new
you.
light?
Yep.
All right. There we go.
I've been Councilmember Harding and Festerson today. This is a development in my district, and I think for me, the reason why I like it is, one, it's a mix. It has the new single-family component, but it also has an affordable component. And as we look at all the housing that we need to really meet the housing crisis that we're in, it's going to take this type of mix. in order for us to get there. I also think the fact that TIF is involved and there is an affordable component is what we're also working toward on the council. So I appreciate this project and look forward to others that are coming down the pipeline. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 55, an ordinance to approve a major amendment to the Copperfields Mixed-Use District Development Agreement.
Public hearing is now open on item number 55. Proponents, Mr. Jobin, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the council. Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of the applicant, the developer. With me today is Randy Cusack of Lamper Nearson, the consulting engineers on this particular project. This is really just a simple amendment to the mixed-use development agreement that was approved some time ago that reduces the buffer yard on the east side of the property line from 30 feet to 25 feet, and also flips the curbside landscaping with the sidewalk just to make it more aesthetically pleasing along that side of the development. I think it's important to note that the original mixed-use development agreement actually showed the covered patios, and that's what this waiver is, or change of site regulators from 30 foot to 25 feet. The original mixed-use development agreement actually showed the covered patios, showed them encroaching into the 25 feet, but it wasn't caught by the consulting engineers as far as the actual movement from the 30 foot to the 25 feet. And under the mixed-use zoning site regulators, we can really draft our own pursuant to the agreement. There was a question at planning board about the post-construction stormwater management and what was going on with that. That has now been approved by the city, so we're in compliance with all the post-construction stormwater management plan that's in place today. I think the neighbor might be here, and I know that Randy Cusack has met with her on a number of occasions to make sure that the landscaping and some of the other post-construction stormwater management items are taken care of. So with that, we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Larry. Any other proponents here today? Item 55. Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 56, an ordinance to approve and accept the bid award of Pangalon in snow services for maintenance along Abbott Drive.
The public hearing is now open on item 56. Any proponents here? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 57, an ordinance to approve payment to Axon Enterprises for the purchase of Axon safety packages for the Police Department Training Academy unit.
Public hearing is now open on item 57. Any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 58, an ordinance to approve the professional services contract with Public Consulting Group, LLC, to assist the fire department in participating in the Ground Emergency Medical Transport Program.
Public hearing is now open on item number 58. Good afternoon.
Andreas Bierbauer, Omaha Fire Department, 11409 South 47th Street, Bellevue, Nebraska.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here today? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Thanks for hanging around.
Item 59, an ordinance to accept and authorize the disbursement from the Department of Justice, United States Marshal Service Joint Law Enforcement Operations Task Force to support overtime operations for the police department.
Public hearing is now open on item 59. Are there any proponents? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 60, an ordinance to approve the Omaha Police Officers Association Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Public hearing is now open on item number 60. Proponents, Mr. Endenbosch, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I feel like everybody's already left.
We waited for you, Bernard.
Thank you. Bernard Endenbosch, Deputy City Attorney, and I'm here on behalf of the city's negotiating team, which includes Labor Relations Director Andy Matthews and Assistant City Attorney Tyler Hebica. What you have before you, and I will do a short presentation, obviously happy to answer any questions if you have any. It's a 2-year contract. Unlike most contracts that we've negotiated in the past, the wages were already established by the ordinance that the City Council adopted last April. So that made, other than discussing potentially changing that was really kind of off the table to discuss. So just as far as highlights, as far as health insurance, we match the HSAs that we made for the other civilian groups, and we intend hopefully to make for the last of the civilian groups that's upcoming. There was a slight decrease in premiums, though premiums for police officers are still quite a bit higher than what you're seeing for civilian employees. As far as pension, we did make some changes that affect the Tier 3 employees. Those are the police officers that are hired after January 1st of 2010. The cost of those was 0.38% of the pension system, and the parties agreed to split those. We also, much to one thing I've been working on for probably 15 years, agreed to remove the sunset provision on 1.5% of contributions split equally between the city and the union that expired at the end of the 2025 payroll year, and for the last 3 contracts expired at the end of each contract. Now it is no longer expires, it remains and would have to be negotiated out by the parties. The most significant increase as far as compensation, there's an increase in longevity pay for 2026. That was spurred on, frankly, by a tremendous increase that we saw in Lincoln in their contract. This is a portion of that, but that increase does go into effect in 2026 and is roughly 0.78% of payroll. We did do a shift differential increase that goes into effect in 2027. We made some changes to premium pay to make them consistent for everybody who is entitled to them. Added specialty pay for school resource officers, mounted patrol, and for drone operators, as drone operation has become, that's a significant change over the last even 2 or 3 years, certainly before the last contract was adopted. And then the other financial thing I want to discuss is we did increase the uniform vouchers and allow people to use those over multiple years. Those are the first time those have been increased since 2008. The increase in multiple years is in fact because we have a lot of officers who are wanting to use those for rifles or other significant thing, and we've, as a department, have put an emphasis on making sure more of our officers are trained. And as many of you probably know, officers are all responsible for purchasing all their own weapons. The department does not purchase those. As far as other benefits, we match the benefits that we did for civilians for dental, parental leave, and family sick leave. And then the last item I'll hit on, you recall last April when we had the discussions with the Omaha Police Union, we spent a lot of time talking about recruiting and trying to get people started in the academy. The focus of this discussions was frequently on retention, and that's why you see a little bit of increase in longevity pay and some of the specialty pays. But the last piece of that was city employees get sick and annual leave paid off when they leave at different percentages. We added an additional change to allow for some sale of some additional sick leave that is contingent upon reaching certain longevity parameters. So at 26 years, you're able to sell a little more up to 30 years with the hope that that would increase or encourage people to stay a few years longer and increase staffing by increasing retention. So that's my description of what it is. I'm happy to answer questions about any specifics, or if there's other stuff that you have questions about, I'll obviously be here next week to answer questions as well.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here today on item 60? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Councilmember Festerson, you're recognized.
Thanks, Mr. President. There was a time not too long ago when a police contract would fill the room with testifiers, but not today, I guess.
Remember.
But I continue to think it's pretty important. So I just had a few follow-up questions for you, Bernard.
Sure.
Obviously, with the 2-year contract, like we have presented to us, with comparatively large salary or wage increases over the next 2 years, the emphasis is staffing, and that is the major issue here. We talked with the police chief on our public safety committee meeting this week, and I think it's accurate to say we're making progress in that they hired about 113 new hires in 2025, that there's 813 now if you include the academy, and we're planning a June class and a December class. I don't suspect you have these numbers off.
I don't know if the class is going to be December or January, but certainly a class right about that time period.
Okay. And I don't know if you have these numbers off the top of your head, but if you don't, next week's fine. I'd be interested in the end of 2026 projection of how many officers we'll have, December of 2026.
I don't have it off the top of my head, but partially, I mean, I know they have an estimate on how many people they hope will be in the June class. Frankly, I think they've been encouraged by the people who have applied, so they actually, originally they were, when I was hearing conversations, that class was a little bit smaller. It seems like it's increasing a little bit in size. But yeah, I'll try to get an estimate. We have a weekly meeting where I can have that discussion. I would also point out, because people seem to forget this, whenever our staffing number always was intended to include people who were in training classes and people who are on limited duty and people who are on military leave and people who are on FMLA leave or whatever else. So, but I do agree with you that ultimately we obviously want to get that number close to the 906 number that's been budgeted for a number of years.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that ultimately what matters is how many are actually on the street.
Yeah.
I do think we're planning on a large class in June. So yeah, just that number for next
and
week.
I think it's actually going to be in July. It's going to be
June or
to
July.
start the Monday after the 4th.
All right, thanks for that. And then to the financials on it, as you note, we knew the 5.58% in 2026 was going to be what it was going to be, and so that is currently provided for in the 2026 budget, right?
It is.
The 2027 number in this contract is 6.4%, but it's possible that goes higher at some point if something occurs before March, right?
Correct. We have 28 days. If another agency would approve an agreement that was higher than, I think, the Lincoln Police Department, which is what ours is currently based on, it could potentially move up. But obviously, as with every passing week, the risk of that goes down.
Mm-hmm. So something we'd have to keep our eyes on as we create future budgets. All right, thank you. Just that information for next week would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. No further lights.
Item 61, an ordinance to amend various sections of Chapter 23 of the Omaha Municipal Code to reflect changes negotiated with the Omaha Police Managers Association.
Public hearing is now open on item 61.
Bernard Innenbush, Deputy City Attorney, on behalf of the city's negotiating team, which included Annie Matthews, the Labor Relations Director, and Tyler Hebica. Ms. Matthews was intending, I should have said this before, intending to be here, but is under the weather. So much like for the police bargaining group, the police management is a 2-year contract. Though they are not contingent to the contract, the ordinance that was adopted in April, they didn't get the increase that ordinance in April got either, but we agreed to match the wages with no ability for them to go up to 6.4. That's the max that will be for police management. And the main reason for that is trying to keep the gap between your captain and your deputy police chief. Your captain is a non-exempt position who receives overtime. Deputy police chiefs don't. So the gap has already gotten narrow enough that some of the more active captains are reluctant to seek promotions because it ends up being a decrease in pay, maybe not a decrease in hours worked, but maybe also not a decrease in pay. But so that was important to continue to match that. So as far as the health insurance changes, again, we matched what we did with civilians, including the benefits for dental benefits and family sick leave and parental leave. The one health insurance thing that's a little bit different, we matched the OPOA's provision for gap insurance. Gap insurance is the ability for people who have the number of years but don't have the age to yet retire. They can pay for insurance for a period of time in order to be eligible to get it when they retire. We'd made changes to the OPOA contract a number of years ago, did not make those changes to police management, so we squared up the language so they're now the same. Again, trying to reduce impediments to people wanting to take promotions. We did increase master's degree pay. We did allow for 1 more year of increased annual leave sellback. The reason we've done that in the past and the reason we did this year is we still have police management carrying relatively significant leave balances as a result of what occurred in 2020 and 2021 when they weren't able to take vacation due to some of the additional hours that people had to work relative to COVID and some of the George Floyd protests as well. So we're phasing that out, and their balances at this point should be back to where they need to be, so that doesn't have to be an issue in the future. And then we did match the same this thing I talked about for as far as retention, as far as the sick leave sellout again. Felt it important to match because we don't want to make it a disincentive for people to take promotional opportunities. We want to make sure we can get the best people in deputy chief and chief positions. And then there's a couple other relatively minor cleanup changes. One of them was in the pension provision, doesn't change anything, but what it did was it cleaned up some language that had caused some confusion when people were looking at alternatives, again, when they were considering promotions. So happy to answer any questions if you have any. Obviously, far fewer, a relatively long ordinance, but far fewer things that are actually changed.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents here on item 61? Seeing none, are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Councilmember Festerson, is that your light?
One last question.
Sure.
So Bernard is having to change sometimes, so I'm just curious. Will this be your last contract you had to been involved with?
I ultimately, that's going to be Mr. Kuzi's decision. My expectation is that I'll be around long enough that I could be involved in other contracts, but in a different capacity.
All right, good. I heard him say no from behind the stand.
I did not say no.
I just want to say we appreciate your involvement. You've been at this for a long time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Non-action items, items 62 through 75, do not require public hearing or city council consideration at this meeting, but will be placed on a future agenda for public hearing and/or vote. The reason for non-action is noted after the item on the agenda, as well as the date the item is expected to appear on an agenda for consideration.
Motion is second. Roll call.
Hug. Melton. Rowe. Festerson. Goodwin. Harding.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Aye.
Motion passed 7-0. Meeting is adjourned at 5:04.